don't you go get some sleep?
Oh, no, I feel great. I feel great. Listen, I've been thinking, if you don't want me mixing with Creed no more, we'll make out some other kind of way, you know?
There's one thing I want you to do for me.
What?
Come here.
What?
Win. Win.
What are we waiting for? Take this!
What up, y'all? It's your boy, Mr. Mar Sharp, Short Man Filmworks in the building, and we have another episode of the Everyday Man's Film Reviews for you guys this evening. All right, continuing on with what I started with a couple of episodes ago. I'm continuing with my review of the Rocky movies, and as I told y'all before, I'm going in the order that I seen these films. So I started off with Rocky 4, that was my first one, and then the last one I posted was Rocky 5, which I told you guys it was an earlier video because I had found it in my archives. And now I'm going to review the 1979 classic Rocky 2 with Sylvester Stallone, Talia Shire. I still have a hard time with her name. Talia Shire, Carl Weathers, Burgess Meredith, and my man Tony Duke, who plays Apollo Creed's trainer. All right, so we pick up where the first Rocky left off. We pick up from the previous fight, and we see that Rocky has went through his fight with Apollo Creed, and we start off with him. Basically, now he's getting into the lifestyle, him being recognized and him being known now. Because in the first one, he was considered more of a no-name. He was considered a no-name fighter in that one, but I'm gonna talk about that when I get to my review for the first Rocky. But this one, we're getting into his life after the fight, and he's had Rocky has had a couple of questions, and I remember him being in the movie and him asking Apollo Creed, did you give me my best? Did he give him his best? And Apollo said, yeah, he did. And at first, at the end of the first one, he says, it ain't gonna be no rematch. And he's like, well, I don't want one. You know what I mean? So as we go along through the film, we start seeing that Apollo is not taken too lightly to the fact that he didn't beat Rocky like he wanted to beat him in the first one. In the first one, he was like, hey, I'm gonna take him out in a matter of a couple of rounds. And this one, it gets to his spirit, it gets to his soul. So he's more like, okay, we gotta find whatever kind of way we need to find to bring him out of hiding, because Rocky is kind of just living a simple life. He had to fight, and in a way, he's kind of satisfied with how it turned out. He's like, hey, I had a shot at the heavyweight title. I didn't win it, but I went the distance. Him and Adrian ends up getting married. They she ends up getting pregnant. So you see Rocky moving on with his life, but in some ways you can kind of also see that he really doesn't have no other place else to go but to actually be a fighter, because it's like he can't go back to his old life. He can't go back to his old life of what he was doing and being the muscle for the local gangsters and working at the docks and doing what he pretty much what he considered to be his life before him being known as a professional fighter. So as he gets into his lifestyle, he has that itch, and it starts knocking, and he tells Mickey, he's like, look, man, I just want to be around it. I can't go away from it. And I think that's a testament to anything that's going on inside of anybody's life. When you have a purpose, when you have something that keeps knocking at your soul and keep knocking at your system, it's going to keep on nagging you, and I feel like in this movie that itch that he had, that he finally had his chance to fight in the professional ranks like he wanted to fight. Now Rocky has that itch to the point where he's like, look, man, I gotta go back to this thing. You know what I mean? Adrian doesn't want him to go back, and in a lot of ways you can see that Rocky is, I don't want to say he's living his life for Adrian, but he's how can I put this, man? He's not fighting because he loves Adrian so much, and she loves him just as equally. You know what I mean? And she knows how dangerous fighting is. You know what I mean? She knows how dangerous it is because she doesn't want him to go in there and get hurt because he was hurt horribly in the first movie. You know, his I think it's right one of his eyes. I didn't want to say it's his right eye. His right eye is jacked up from all the blows he took. You know what I mean? So you see that, you know, he doesn't want to go back to it, but he wants to go back to it, you know. So once Creed forces him out of hiding, you see that, okay, like, I got to get into this thing. I got to get back into the fighting. You know, he's still kind of reluctant. You know, they got married. She got pregnant. She ends up getting sick. And at the time that she gets sick, you know, Rocky, he's kind of into it, but he's not really into the training, you know. So, because Apollo Creed kind of talks him out of it and he wants to do the rematch. And he's not really into it because he knows Adrian is not for it, you know. So since she's not for it, he doesn't really have his heart into it. You know, he wants to do it, but he also wants to know that it's okay with her, so he can do it. You know, so you know she goes to her sickness. She goes through her coma. She's in a coma in the film. She goes through the coma, and Rocky's like, listen, I'm not doing anything until I know that she's going to be better. You know what I mean? And the great thing about this film is I love Adrian and Rocky's relationship, you know, because, you know, to me, I'm like, you know, they're like the most loving couple, man, you know. And he's like, look, I'll do anything for her, you know what I mean? And when she comes out of that coma, and she tells him one thing, you know. He's sitting there, he's like, you know, if you don't want me to fight, you know, I know you got the baby, you know, I know you want me to not get in the ring. If you don't want me to fight, you know, I'll just hang it up and, you know, I'll do something else. And she calls him closer and she whispers to him and she tells him to win. And it's like when she tells him to win, he's like, all right, it's time to go to work. And we jump to the Rocky montage of him training and, you know, the whole city getting behind him, the city getting behind him and really being in his corner. And, you know, he goes through the fight with Apollo Creed and he ends up winning the championship, you know, even though it's a hell of a fight, man. And they, like I said, they fought 15 rounds back then. Ooh, that's hardcore. That's hardcore, man. You know, but, you know, the way the fight is choreographed in the movie, you know, you can see that Rocky's taking a hell of a lot of damage in this film, you know. But you get into it, you know. You get into the fighting of the movie. You get into the story, you know. So great movie, man. Rocky 2 is a great movie, you know. I came in contact with this movie. I seen it when I was younger, and I'm talking young. I'm talking about between, because I had seen Rocky 4 first, and then I seen Rocky 5. But in between Rocky 4 and Rocky 5, because I seen Rocky 5, I seen not 5. I seen Rocky 4 in 1985 when it first came out. I seen Rocky 5 when it started coming on cable, and that was like 91. So I had this whole like 6-year stretch of Rocky movies. These are like the only 2 Rocky movies that I really, really remember, you know. And I seen 1, 2, and 3 in that time frame, but I don't really remember it. I didn't really come in contact with this movie until like 1994, matter of fact, because I was in 8th grade and they was running it on cable consistently. It was coming on cable consistently back in 1994, and I really got into this movie. So this was my 3rd Rocky movie that I saw, and seeing it at that time gave me a chance to really start seeing where Rocky kind of came from, you know, because like I said, Rocky 4 and Rocky 5 always stood out in my head. And like I said, there was Rocky 3 was in there, but seeing Rocky 2 let me see where the roots were coming from with this film, you know. And Rocky 2 ended up turning out to be another one of my favorite Rocky movies, man. It turned out to be one of my favorite Rocky movies because I love, even back then, like I said before, I always loved Rocky and Adrian's relationship, and I loved how they interacted with each other and how they was always in each other's corner. I always loved that about the Rocky films, you know what I mean? And even at the age of 13, I loved that aspect of their relationship, that he was so like ingrained in her. I ain't gonna say he was ingrained in her, but he loved her so much that he would do anything for her. You know, he's willing to say, hey, listen, I'm gonna stop fighting because she doesn't want me to. But when she tells him to go at it, he's like, all right, let's get at it. You know what I mean? So I always loved that aspect of these movies. You know, even back then, being 13 years old, being that young, you know. So getting to my scale, I give Rocky 4, not Rocky 4. I give Rocky 2. I'm gonna give Rocky 2 4 thumbs up. I'm gonna give it 4 thumbs up because of the story, and once again, this story is written by Sylvester Stallone. I think he wrote. I think he wrote all of them. I know he wrote the first one. He wrote the first one, but it was directed by what's my man name who did Lean on Me? John God, is it Iverson? Not Iverson, but Alverson, something like that. But I will get to that when I do my review on the first Rocky movie. But this one, Sylvester Stallone wrote and directed this one, and I love the way he told the story, because he told the story about how difficult it was for Rocky to kind of adjust to this new lifestyle. From him going to who he was in the first film, and then here you see that he has one foot in his old life, but he also has another foot in the new life. So he's at that crossroads. He's at that crossroads where he doesn't really know which way he wants to go until, we start going further along in the movie and he starts to realize, okay, I know where I want to go and I know where I want to be, so I just have to make the adjustments to getting where I got to go, So I love the fact that Stallone told it from a perspective of, okay, he became this professional fighter, and he didn't just leap into this new lifestyle. It was a slow build up. It's a slow transition, and I think it's a transition of Rocky finding himself, because you can see he still has those elements of who he was in that first film. He still has those elements, and him coming into what he wants to do, what he wants to do. He's not there yet, Even when they was trying to get him to do commercials, he was having a hard time reading the cue cards, So, and he was having a hard time adjusting to what people wanted him to do, because he wasn't accustomed to that kind of life. Everybody wanted a piece of him. At the time, people started wanting, everybody started wanting pieces of him, and he's like, I don't even know if I'm ready for this yet, But like I said, as we get further into the film, he starts to realize, I'm a fighter. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at, and this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. So kudos to Sylvester Stallone writing a top-notch story, man. Writing a top-notch story of seeing this man's come up. You know what I mean? Kudos to him, and kudos to Sylvester Stallone. Kudos to Sylvester Stallone for having the balls to tell studio execs in the first film that he wanted to star as this character, because I gotta get to that. I gotta get to that with the first film, because like I said, I watched numerous documentaries about this movie and read stories about how he got the first one made, but him being this character really, I don't want to say it put him on the map, but it's like he was, he is, of course he knows the character because he wrote it, but he was like, it's kind of almost like he knew what this character was going to be. He knew what this character was going to be, and it was up to him to do what it is that he needed to do, So, and that's bleeding me over into the acting side of the film, So yeah, shout out to Sylvester Stallone for playing Rocky in a kind of like, I don't want to say he's slow, but you get this feeling like, and I don't want to say he doesn't know any better, because there's it's a couple of lines in the film where they ask him certain things, and he responds in a way where you kind of look at him like, is he slow? Is he kind of slow? But it ain't the fact that he's slow. He's just who he is. And I think in a lot of ways he's a little bit touched. He's a little bit, but he's functional. He's functional to the point where he knows what he wants. He knows what he wants to do, but he doesn't really have it. He doesn't really have it all together. He has it together, but he's still trying to figure it out. So kudos to Sylvester Stallone for, as I said before, creating an iconic character. Talia Shire, who plays Adrian, she's kind of almost like Rocky in this film too. When I went back and watched it, I was like, you know, them two communicate in their own way. You know, Adrian doesn't really have a lot of, I don't say she has a lot of dialogue. She doesn't really have too much dialogue in the film. She don't have a lot of dialogue in the film. And I don't want to say she goes along with Rocky, but she's kind of like, hey, you see her shyness. So she's not too far from who she was in the first film. And it bleeds over into this film. That's why I said, man, to me, this is great writing from Sylvester Stallone, because he didn't just make this drastic change from one film to the next. And like I said, it takes place right after the fight. So for that story to be a drastic change from the first one, I don't think it would have. It wouldn't have flowed well. It flowed well in this one because it just seamlessly walked right into the next film. You know what I mean? So it flowed well, and the way Sylvester Stallone played it, the way Talia Shire played it, they bleed. They bleed and go right into the next film like nothing ever happened. You know what I mean? And their character traits are still the same. She's still that shy person. Rocky is still kind of like that. He's still kind of like that. I don't want to keep calling him slow, but he's still that character who he is in the first movie. You know, so as it goes into the next movie, you see how that rolls. You know, Carl Weathers also, as I said, him being Apollo Creed, man, I really don't think anybody else could have played Apollo Creed the way Carl Weathers plays Apollo Creed. You know, and even with Apollo, he's having his issues because he took Rocky lightly in the first film. And by him taking Rocky so lightly in the first film, and then we get to the second film, and he see that Rocky went the distance. And with Rocky going the distance, he's kind of almost questioning, like, yo, how good of a champion am I? You know, that I couldn't take out this bum, so to say, this nobody. I couldn't take out this nobody as fast as I thought I could. And it ain't even about him not taking out a nobody. It's just a testament of Rocky's heart. Rocky just had heart, and he was like, yo, I'm not going down. You know, he said it in this film, you know, after Creed beat on him for like the first 3-4 rounds, and after he knocked him down a couple times, he was like, yo, I ain't going down no more. You know, so that's a testament to Rocky's heart, you know. But with Carl Weathers with Carl Weathers playing Apollo Creed, we see how much of the fact that he couldn't take Rocky out as fast as he thought he could. We see how that's eating away at him. You know what I mean? Because he was the one that was like, yo, you know, don't even think about a rematch. You know, he didn't want the rematch at first, and now all of a sudden he was like, yo, I gotta have this rematch. It's kind of almost a way for him to satisfy his ego, to say, hey, the first fight was a fluke. Let's do this again, because now when we do it again, I'm gonna take you out the way I said I was gonna do the first time, because now I know what to expect. And even with them going through this fight, it goes the distance again, all 15 rounds. You know what I mean? So, you know, I like what Carl Weathers did with Apollo Creed. And like I said, he created an iconic character. He created a very iconic character from the first movie to the second one, even in the ones coming up. You know, so he created an iconic character. Burt Young, who plays Paulie has it. Paulie doesn't really get a lot of burn in this movie. He's in it, but he doesn't really get a lot of burn from what I thought I remembered, because I thought Paulie was in this movie a lot, but he really doesn't get a lot of burn. You know what I mean? He's kind of like, he's there, and we know that he's Adrian's brother, but he starts to get more burn in the later films. We start to dig a little bit more into him in the later films, but he's there for who he is, and he has his famous line, you know, I don't sweat you, you know. I like it when he say that line, man, because it's so funny. Because he's like, look, man, Paulie is probably like about, I don't know, maybe about 150, 160 pounds wet. When he says I don't sweat you, it's kind of like he wants to come off as this tough guy, but in his own little way, Paulie has a toughness about him that I always enjoyed, you know. So yeah, Burt Young does his thing being playing Paulie. And Burgess Meredith, who plays Mickey. You know, Mickey is that hard-nosed trainer. You know, Burgess Meredith created another iconic character in Mickey. You know, you can't in the first two Rockies, well, I'd say the 3 or 2, but in the first 2 Rockies, you don't really think about Rocky without thinking about Mickey. You know, they go hand in hand. It's like, you know, any famous sport figure and their trainer. You know, you don't think about Muhammad Ali without thinking about Angelo Dundee. You don't think about Mike Tyson without thinking about Cus D'Amato. You don't think about Michael Jordan without Phil Jackson. You know, you don't think about Magic Johnson without Pat Riley. So, you know, you got these combos that stick together, you know what I mean? So it's like that with Rocky and Mick. You don't think about Rocky without thinking about Mick, you know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed the character of Mickey too, you know what I mean? So, you know, from his growly voice of telling him to, you know, knock this bum out, you know, how about, you know, I think we ought to knock his block off, you know. So he says certain lines that I always enjoy, you know what I mean? So I love Mickey as a character, you know. I love what Burgess Meredith did with him, did with Mickey as a character, you know. So, like I said, man, on a scale, I give Rocky 2 4 thumbs up, you know, and I give it 4 thumbs up just for story, for the acting, and I give it 4 thumbs up for a nostalgic feel, you know. Now, wait a minute, hold on. For nostalgic feel, should I give it 5 or should I give it 4? I'm gonna keep it at 4. Do I want to keep it at 4? I want to keep it at 4. I'm gonna keep it at 4. I'm gonna keep it at 4 for the nostalgic feel, and I'm gonna keep it at 4 because of the great story that Stallone told. You know what? I take that back. I'm not gonna give it 5. I'm gonna go 4.5. I'm gonna go 4.5 thumbs up. So I'm gonna change what I said earlier about it being 4 thumbs up. I'm gonna give it 4.5. I'm gonna give it 4.5 because, like I said, I like the way it bled. I like the way this movie tied into the first one. You know what I mean? It to me, it just seamlessly flowed right into the next one with no issues and no problems. You know what I mean? And I like how the character, how you see the characters developing through this film. You know what I mean? So I give it 4.5 thumbs up. You know? So that's my review on Rocky 2. If you've seen Rocky 2, which I cannot imagine anybody who has not seen a Rocky movie, I can't imagine any man at that. You know, and I know some dudes out here who hasn't seen no Rocky movies, but I feel like dudes in my age bracket have seen the entire Rocky franchise, you know. But if you've seen Rocky 2, put some comments down below. Let me know how you feel about it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Go from 1 all the way to Rocky Balboa, and I guarantee you, man, you will not be disappointed by these films, you know. So, like, comment, subscribe, put some comments down below. Let me know what's going on, how y'all feel about this movie. Give your boy some likes, help me out, show some love, all right? This is the Everyday Man's Film Reviews. I'm Mr. Marsharp, and this is Short Man Filmworks, and I think I got to order that backwards, but it's all good. But y'all get the point. I made my 3 points, all right? Short Man Filmworks. I'm your boy, Mr. Marsharp, and these are the Everyday Man's Film Reviews. I will see y'all on the next video. Y'all take care, and y'all have a good night.